I never truly believed she was serious when she first brought up the idea of an open marriage. We had been together for more than 7 years, married for 4, and I thought we were solid. Not perfect, of course, but grounded. We had history, rituals, memories, stability. It was after dinner one night, the dishes still in the sink, when she casually leaned against the counter and said, "Why don't we try an open marriage?" Her tone was calm, almost offhand, like she was suggesting a new paint color for the living room. But there was something flickering in her eyes, uncertainty, maybe fear. I laughed, not because I meant to be dismissive, but because the idea seemed so completely out of left field that I honestly thought she was joking. She wasn't. She spoke carefully, choosing her words like she'd been rehearsing them. "We've been together a long time," she said, "and maybe it's time to explore. Not necessarily together, not necessarily apart, just to see what's out there." I was stunned. The concept felt foreign, like she was speaking another language. It wasn't something I'd ever considered. Not with her. But there was a strange clarity in the way she said it, a quiet confidence that made it hard to brush off. I didn't shut it down. I think part of me was afraid that if I did, I'd be closing a door she'd already walked halfway through. So instead, I said, "Let's think about it." And that sentence, just 5 simple words, was a turning point. What followed were days, even weeks of long conversations. Honest ones. We talked about boundaries, about what we each could and couldn't handle. We promised full transparency. We swore nothing would happen unless we were both fully on board. It felt strangely mature, like we were navigating some high-level relationship theory. Controlled freedom. Structured chaos. At first, it worked. I went on a few dates, surface level, nothing serious. Laura did the same. It felt odd, yes, but manageable. Like we were both dipping our toes into the unknown, but still anchored to each other. But then, something shifted. Subtle at first, almost invisible. A text she didn't tell me about. A night she came home quieter than usual. A name that kept coming up just a little too often. And that's when I started to understand what I hadn't seen coming. Laura began spending more and more time with Sarah, her best friend since college. They had always been close, but now there was something different between them. Something unspoken, yet unmistakably present. At first, I dismissed it. They laughed a little longer, sat a little closer, whispered just a bit too often. I told myself I was imagining it. But then Sarah started showing up more often, slipping seamlessly into our daily lives, like she belonged there. Then one night, over dinner, Laura dropped it on me without a trace of warning. "Sarah's curious," she said, her tone light, like she was mentioning a movie we might want to watch. She might want to try something with us. I froze, fork halfway in my mouth. My heart stuttered. "You're serious?" I asked, hoping I'd misunderstood her. She nodded, her smile soft and casual, as if this was just another step in our little experiment. "You've always liked her. I trust you both." And then she added the part that made my stomach turn. "I already talked to her. She's interested." It felt surreal, like I had stepped outside my own life. Part of me was paralyzed, caught in the weight of it. Another part, a quieter, darker part, was intrigued. Sarah was attractive, smart, kind, and I couldn't deny that the idea stirred something in me I hadn't felt in years. So we planned a trip, a secluded cabin in the mountains, just the 3 of us, just to see what happens, Laura said, brushing her hand against mine. At first, it was awkward. Stilted conversation, nervous laughter, too much wine poured in too little time. But as the night wore on, the tension shifted. It didn't dissolve so much as transform. Glances held longer. Touches lingered. And somewhere between midnight and dawn, the lines between us blurred. What followed was intoxicating, surreal, reckless, yes, but alive. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt something pure and immediate. Desire, connection, joy. But the high didn't last. Laura changed almost instantly. She grew distant, then possessive. Her mood swung without warning, 1 minute laughing, the next accusing. Her texts turned frequent, frantic. Every conversation felt like a test I was failing. She snapped at things that had never mattered before. She couldn't hide her jealousy, especially when Sarah was around. One night, Sarah and I were having drinks. Innocent enough, or so I thought, when Laura stormed in. Her face was flushed, eyes wild with hurt and fury. "You betrayed me," she shouted. "You fell for her." Sarah tried to speak, to calm her down, but it only fueled a fire. Laura saw it not just as a betrayal by me, but by her best friend. Everything we had agreed upon collapsed under the weight of real emotion, unpredictable, raw, and impossible to control. From there, it all unraveled. Fights erupted like brush fires, loud, bitter, relentless. Accusations flew. Then came the silences, heavier than any shouting. The trust we had tried so carefully to preserve had been reduced to ash. And in the middle of that chaos, I had to face something I hadn't anticipated. I had developed real feelings for Sarah. It wasn't just attraction. It wasn't just a thrill. It was deeper, unexpected, but undeniable. When Laura confronted me, she was in pieces, eyes red, voice trembling. "You promised," she whispered. "You said this wouldn't happen. But you love her, don't you?" I looked at her, at the woman I had shared years of my life with, and I couldn't lie. "I do," I said. That truth shattered whatever fragile thing we still had left. The end came quickly after that. Explosive arguments, sharp words neither of us could take back. The painful process of disentangling lives built over years. But it wasn't just the open marriage that destroyed us. It was emotional carelessness, the belief that we could keep our hearts detached while playing with fire. In the end, I chose Sarah, not because she was easier or because it was some fantasy realized. I chose her because what we had felt real in a way I hadn't expected. Laura never forgave me. Our marriage ended messily, painfully, and far from quietly. And though I'm with Sarah now, though what we share is genuine and strong, the scars of those months haven't entirely faded. I learned something I'll never forget. Freedom sounds simple, seductive even, but it comes with a cost. And sometimes that cost is more than you ever imagined you'd have to pay.